that piece of what you said about change and purpose. It's so important. I think that is like the first thing uh, before selling, before negotiating, before being out in the marketplace, like knowing why you're there. Like why, like what is your why? What is going to help you get out of bed early in the morning and go to sleep early at night, knowing that you are serving others. When you have a strong why, it can withstand anything. And I think that taking the time to figure that out is so key because it's your fuel in the rocket ship. And I don't think there's any limits to what someone can accomplish as long as you have the right fuel in your rocket.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Shane Ray Martin, who is an expert in negotiation and founder of Deal Talk. Shane, welcome.
Hey, it's great to be here, Fred. Let's get it going. Let's change some lives today.
Well, yeah, let's. And when we're discussing exactly what we're going to talk about, it's an interesting one because I know you've got like a cool project going on with AI in negotiation. You're doing quite a lot of mindset stuff work with salespeople. But we came to the conclusion, didn't we, that actually just tackling some basic mistakes that people make is probably going to have the biggest impact. So
Absolutely.
let's do
Definitely.
that. Let's sort of see if we can knock off half a dozen mistakes that people make. Give them the way to stop doing that, start doing the thing that does work, and like you say, yeah, change lives. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, if you're looking to talk to someone who's made mistakes, you're talking to the right guy.
The right guy's interviewing you as well.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah, but
episode,
at the same time, that's how we
221 mistakes in negotiation.
this
Sorry.
is how we learn. The best way to learn is by trying, is by sending that cold email, adjusting it, by making the cold call, having a different talk track the next time. We learn by doing. That is the best way. It's all about failing forward.
Yeah. No, you're joking apart. You're right. So thinking negotiation, then, what is probably I don't know whether it's the most or what's quite a common mistake that you see people make?
Salespeople go too fast. They go too fast. Slow down. And the reason I know that is because I am a sales rep as well. I'm in the trenches. I have started out as a BDR. I started out selling solar panels door to door. I've done all different types of sales in different industries. And I have found time and time again that the way that you build a meaningful partnership, a long lasting deal, a deal that is lucrative for both you and your prospect, is you have to go slow down to go far. That's the motto. It's like running a marathon. There are times to go fast, there are times to go slow, and I think sales reps need to take the time to figure out, when can I push the pedal down, when do I need to pull back. There are different times in the sales process to do either.
So even before we get to negotiation, we've got to get the sales process right. And what you're saying is just slow that process down, do all that better, and you'll have a more solid foundation to when we come to the actual negotiation piece.
Yeah, the idea is that your sales process is so fine-tuned and it's so clean and it's so easy to buy from that you don't even have to negotiate on price. That you've done all the 6, 7 steps prior so excellent that you've found the right prospects, that you've prescribed the right solution for them, that they just sign. And it's more like, I found that the larger the deals that I've done in my career, the more of a partnership sort of feel that they have. And the idea is that for every deal to feel that way, obviously that's not the case. Many sleepless nights, a lot of self-inflicted stress, negotiating against myself. But these are all lessons learned. These are all things that we've overcome. But yeah, I would say the first thing I feel like listeners need to hear today is, like, if you're a sales rep right now, and you've got a lot of pressure on you from your boss, or maybe you're putting pressure on yourself, I would just say to just like hit a water break, take a quick timeout, refocus, slow down to go far.
Love it. Well, I'm going to violently agree with you that good sales should have a partnership feel to them, whether it is a formal partnership or not. I mean, that's what I wrote the first book about, isn't it? So we are very much on the same page. Think like a partner, and that's the coolest piece of negotiation advice I've heard from a negotiation expert. It sells so well, you don't have to negotiate.
Yeah,
Love
in
it.
fact, don't even, yeah, I would even remove the word. And sometimes the connotation or just like the word negotiate makes people sort of like twitch or cringe, like, oh, they have to go negotiate. Like, how about this? What if we remove the word negotiate? And what if we just called it a conversation?
Yeah, yeah. Because it's funny, isn't it? I think sometimes we see people when they get to negotiation, they realize that's where they are, and they could have done everything really well before, thought like a partner, acted like a partner, uh, Dr. Jackal, and they suddenly turn into Mr. Hyde because we're negotiating now, and I'm gonna beat up the customer and do all that kind of stuff. It's like, whoa, weird. Why have you just changed? What's gone on there then? And I guess that's another mistake we see people make.
Well, yeah, I mean, sales is hard. Like hitting quota, doing it's a difficult task. And so slowing down, it seems like very counterintuitive because you have to meet your quota quarterly or monthly. And if you feel like you're not meeting them, it can make things even worse if you're not meeting your quota, you know? So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, slow down to speed up, like it. Okay, that's one we've dealt with. What else do we see people do that has got a reasonably, if not quick fix, a simple enough fix for people to kind of understand and start to think about applying?
Yeah, there are not enough salespeople challenging prospects today. There's a great book called The Challenger Sale. It's a legendary sales book where they studied thousands and thousands of sales reps, and they asked the question, what makes a rep a top 1% rep? And there are a lot of different answers to that, but one of the thing that they landed on was the prospect, or excuse me, the salesperson challenges their prospect in a way in which it's making the prospect better. And so I would say I would encourage you, if you're a sales rep, challenge your prospect. And I'm not saying disagree with them violently and throw things across the room in your office or things like that. No, no, no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying love your prospect better. Be the salesperson who can out care anyone else that has ever sold anything to them. And I feel like if you can out care the competition, if you can sweat the details, if you can slow down when you need to and speed up when you do, you've really got a great recipe for success.
Yeah, no, I like that one. Challenge is interesting in that, I mean, it's got very popular, hasn't it? And some people don't quite get it, and they do exactly what you said there, which is a sort of argue with people. I think it makes, it's permission to like be pushy. Yes, they talk about pushback, but not in the way that you're like some kind of, sleazy salesperson who's trying to manipulate someone into where you want them to be. They talk about, don't they, teach, tailor, take control. It is just really do stuff with care, best intention, for the customer, and to help them. And sometimes if they're going to make a mistake, we need to flag that up and say, well, I don't think it's best for you. You know, but yeah, out care people. I'm borrowing that. You'll hear that from me in the future, but I will try to attribute it. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's good. And I have a quick example too of how I was purchasing something and I was challenged by the salesperson, and I really appreciate her for it. Basically, it was this automated the story goes is there was this we needed to do more outbound, and so we wanted to automate it. We wanted to bring in more leads like most salespeople. And so I was concerned that it would take too much time to spin up this sort of tool and get this going. And I was thinking in my mind, like this would take a whole week to get going. And this is why I told her, like, we're just not interested. It's going to take too much time. And she said, wait, 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 wait. She got on the phone and she said, wait, 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 wait. You know that this only takes about 60 to 90 minutes to set up, right? And I was like, wait, are you serious? And so this is a great example of her just not, her name's Stephanie. Stephanie not just rolling over and saying, "Oh, okay, this opportunity is dead." She challenged me not by arguing, but by asking questions, like just to confirm that I knew the whole information. And buyers nowadays are inundated with so much information; it can be difficult to decipher and make a decision. And that is why salespeople need to lovingly insert themselves in the tension between where they are today and where they are going in the future. That way, they can make an impact. And this is something that I've learned from Brent Long at Long on Life of how do you insert yourself in the tension between their goal or where they are and their goal. The sales reps who can do that lovingly and care for them, they have the chance to see massive results. And we ended up being a client with Stephanie's company for over a year, all because she asked that one question after I pushed back. She challenged me, and I really respect that.
Yeah. Interesting word, tension. But that's why we do something, isn't it? When there is a tension that we want to break. So where they are now, where they're going in the future, which begs the question, do you know where they're going in the future? Or two questions, do they know where they're going in the future? And that's where we can add massive value to salespeople, isn't it? Helping them to work that stuff out, making sense for them.
It's so good. I love what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me think about what you're saying, the teach part, right before the tailor part. Before you challenge, before you insert yourself in the tension, what are some easy ways or things you can share with your prospect to build your credibility and build the trust? Essentially, communicate that you're not just there to punch a ticket and meet your quota. Communicate, find creative ways to show that you care by researching their profile. There are a list of 100 different things you can do. There's one specific. I'm all about actionable tips, and I love things that I hope that when someone listens to this, they can immediately take it into their day and do something different. And one of the things that has just revolutionized how I sell and how I negotiate is there's a tool called Crystal, and Crystal.ai or Crystal something starts with a C, or maybe it's a K. I don't know these days. Companies are
Is it,
crazy with how they name their companies. But essentially, it reads someone's profile on LinkedIn, like a disc profile, gives you feedback on how they like to be communicated to, how you should pitch and propose your solution, what questions you should ask, how you should build rapport. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's an amazing tool, and it's free as well for 10 different LinkedIn profiles of your buyers. So, like, these are things that take 30 seconds to do as a sales rep that could 3x your deal size. And I'm all about finding actionable ways to do that, because salespeople have a fine amount of time in the day. You only have a certain amount of time that you work during a day, so why not maximize it to the best of your abilities? Crystal, that tool to read LinkedIn profiles, is one of the ways to give you an edge.
yeah, it used to be called Crystal. I think the company's Crystal. I think that's called Crystal Knows. I had one of the founders on the podcast a couple of months back, actually, speaking about that. It's
Nice.
a very cool piece of kit. It's a very
Yeah.
clever way to sell. It's stuff we've been training for years. But now when I say to people, yeah, you can understand someone's profile before you've met them, a lot of people think I've lost the plot, but you can. And you can start to think about how you're going to make those adjustments to do things which are going to be most comfortable for them. Again, going back to what you said, that's kind. That's caring for somebody. Make it easier for them. That's our job.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. One of the best ways to honor someone is to value what they value. And how can you do that without knowing them? And Crystal is a great way to unlock that. I'm glad that you had them on the podcast. That's amazing.
yeah, no, it's a good. I'm into trying to, understand how people think and how we can respond, and yeah, all the psychology stuff. I was way better at that at uni than I was statistics. um, okay, let's try and hit another area that either people make mistakes or that we think people can start to get better at as they're selling, as they're negotiating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sales reps, myself included, we give up on deals too soon as well. We talked about going slow, but how many times are we just casting out an opportunity or just walking away because they say no the first time? There's If you're hearing no as a sale, if you're hearing no as a rep, you're getting a lot of no's. I just want to congratulate you. I want to give you a virtual hug through this podcast, because if you're the person with the most no's on a team is probably the person with the most yeses. And so when we hear no, we shouldn't immediately just mark it closed loss. We should really try to understand, like, why did they say no? Were they the wrong persona? Was it my messaging? Was it the wrong did I not ask enough questions? These are things that are key when someone says no. I think that we just roll over too soon. A quick story is I'm a runner. I haven't always been a runner. But the last 3 years I started running, and I've learned so much through that process. And I run ultra marathons. An ultra marathon is anything over 26 miles. And so I started venturing into the sport with a bunch of other crazy people, and it's a blast. People are so kind, so hardworking, and also so normal, just like you and I, just like you listening. Uh, they're just normal people doing extraordinary things. And I tried to run 100 miles in 24 hours, and I failed. I at miles 72, 73, it was all a blur. I was almost passed out. My body just collapsed on the trail. And I didn't finish the race, but 3 or 4 months later, after going to PT rehabbing, I raced again, and I finished in 29 hours and 52 minutes, just 8 minutes before the cutoff. And I remember that second time I tried to run the 100 miles, when I finished at mile 50 after running 15 hours, other runners on the trail told me that I wasn't going to make it, that Shane, you're going to run out of time. And if I would have listened to what those people had to say, and I don't think that they were bad people, I think that they just were caring, or they thought that this is a way to care for me, is to tell me that, I should stop. And that fueled me so much. My body was so tired. I was exhausted at mile 50, but after running through the night, my last 50 was faster than my first 50. And my last mile of the 100 miler was my fastest mile of the entire race. And so if you're a sales rep and you're hearing no all the time, I just want to say that, like, it doesn't mean that the next person's going to say no. And it doesn't mean that the no is necessarily genuine. There are also counterfeit no's. And so by asking questions, like I did to myself in the race, can I really make it? Do I have enough in the tank to make it the next 50? And I answered yes to all those questions. And I think sales reps can answer yes to those questions too, and find that a lot of the deals that they're marking closed loss are actually potentially closed ones if they do enough digging.
And going back to what you started saying, it's about learning. Yeah. So was your let's use this as an example. It's a great example. Hats off to you. It's even just the thought of doing a marathon, let alone anything ultra. It's just like, you saw me shake my head when you were talking. Was your pacing different in the second one? Did you set up to do the whole thing in a completely different way? Did you take the lessons from the first?
I hired a coach for the second one. I had a strategy for every single minute. I knew when I was going to stop. I knew when I was going to switch clothes, shoes, when I was going to eat. Everything was planned on the second race when I finished. The first one was kind of like let's just go out there and be whimsical. And like, we kind of have a plan. And I was comparing myself to the other runners, and they were obviously much faster. So I was trying to keep up, and I wasn't running my own race. And these are things that ultimately, like, caused the destruction of the muscle in my calf, and why I couldn't run anymore is because I was looking around too much. I wasn't looking ahead of me, and I wasn't focused on how I was serving myself, or like how, in this case, how I'm selling to other people. That's what's most important.
Interesting. Yeah. Had a coach, had a strategy. The other really, you just said something there I want to pick up on about how you serve yourself. Can you just expand on that? Because I think there's probably a little bit more going into the sales world about serving yourself, which is going to sound really backward at the moment. But let's explore this, because I think there's something in here.
Sure. This is good. How can you care for others if you don't care for yourself first? A good example is, I have my pilot's license. So when I was in university, I was learning how to fly. And one of the things that they teach you is if a cabin ever decompresses, that you need to put the mask on yourself first. That way you can help others.
Yeah.
The same
Yeah.
thing applies in sales. Is in order for you to serve your clients or serve your prospects well, you need to serve yourself first. So practically, that means maybe it's running, maybe it's riding a bike, maybe it's going for a walk, maybe it's praying, maybe it's reading. There are a list of different things, but your attitude. I like this. Your attitude determines your altitude. If your attitude going into the conversation is one of, oh, I don't know if they're gonna buy. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if this is gonna be worth my time. Well, sure enough, that's probably what's gonna happen. And also, one thing as well, onto that as well, in negotiations, a lot of times people act the way that we expect them to act, and that happens time and time again. So all that to answer your question of, how do you care for yourself? You have to make yourself a priority, but you also, it's this weird thing. Life is weird. Life is tricky. Life is hard. Life is confusing sometimes, especially now.
Yeah.
But we have to care for ourselves to care for others, but we also have to serve others. That way we can also help ourselves. So it's this weird, fine sort of tuned. I don't want to say balance. Maybe it's not a balance. Maybe it's just an awareness of like, all right, I need this today, or I know that Fred needs this today. If he's my prospect.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. No, I'd love your opinion on this one as well, because this is one that I've got a bit of bee in my bonnet about at the moment, which is linked to this, which is salespeople and their attitude to change. Okay, so as salespeople, we sell change. Yeah, status quo is our biggest competition. Yeah, we're asking people to do different things, do things a different way. Okay, how good are we as salespeople at changing stuff for ourselves, in line with what you're saying? I
It's
wonder.
a it's a putting a mirror up in front of you and being honest with what you see.
Yeah, because change is hard, and it's like kind of, well, if we're not willing to change, if we don't know how to change, even if we don't understand change, and then you think about a change curve, it looks like a grief curve, doesn't it? Surprise, anger, bargaining, acceptance. That's what people are going through. And if we don't understand what that's like ourselves and can't sort of recognize where others are in that, I mean, I could go as far as saying, what right have we got to ask them to do that? If we can't pick up on that. So maybe I get very, very specific for something that's just kind of in my in my psyche at the moment. But it is all to do with that, isn't it? It's if it's good enough for the goose, good enough for the gander.
Yeah, and I think also too, recognizing, giving yourself some peace that there isn't necessarily a finish line to change. Like the finish line is always moving and is always evolving. Are you taking the time to look back, but are you also looking forward? Are you also finding joy in your work and in your service? Are you feeling like you're making a difference? There's a big shift happening right now in the workplace. Now millennials are the largest generation working in the marketplace, and millennials time and time again care more about having a purpose behind their work. And I think that is so key to this subject of change that you're talking about. Of, yes, change is hard, but also change is really beautiful as well. If it's intended to bear fruit. If the change is malicious, or there's intent that's unhealthy behind it, then yeah, it's not good. And things always work out the way that they're supposed to. So in time, things will unravel.
Again, interesting stuff you're saying there with purpose, and like when I we're a lad, as they say, or when first moved into sales, moved into the world of business, we never spoke about purpose. We never spoke about that. You just did what you did. No one cared whether you were aligned to it or not. That's how it was. But now, we do talk about this, don't we? What is someone's purpose? Are they aligned to that? Because if you're not, it's going to be hard, isn't it? Someone else might find it really easy. Why? Because it's aligned to their purpose. It fits with them. Someone else doesn't. And I guess I think it's a great thing that we're starting to talk about this more.
Absolutely.
And so, how can, and we go right off negotiation stuff here, but it doesn't matter. This is very, very cool. How can a salesperson start to understand that better? How can they become more conscious of it? Because they might be not even aware. They just know that something doesn't quite feel right, which is starting to make the awareness. But what kind of stuff can they do to really kind of get clear on that and to use it better?
To get clear on what exactly change or purpose.
Yeah, so their purpose, and then to see whether actually they might be a little bit misaligned, and that's where they're probably finding stuff so tricky. It's not the quota, it's not the product, it's not the market. It's just that actually you're trying to do something that is just not you.
The other day I was sharing coffee with a sales rep, really successful, good family person, has it all, sort of the dream life. And I said, what is the making of what makes a good man, is the question I asked him. And this also could apply to women as well. What makes a good woman? But in this context, it was just the two of us sharing coffee. So I asked him, hey, what makes a good man? And his answer was one word: humility. And I think it answers and sums up exactly what you're asking, of what we were talking about, putting the mirror up. Like, humble yourself to recognize your weaknesses and your strengths, and take action on what you want to improve, and do it not necessarily for others, but do it for yourself. When is the last time that you did something for you? Um, Sales is hard. And so I even would recommend scheduling a weekend away, scheduling, even time blocking on your calendar when to take holiday. Do it now. Do it now for next year, and take care of yourself, because that's going to enable you to take care of others as well. But when it comes to the purpose thing, humility, also humility to accept help. I think that there are seasons in a sales rep's journey when they need to accept help. Um, especially a lot of negotiators, myself included, we think that we are better than we actually are. And I think sales reps, uh, I hope I'm stirring the pot. I'm hoping
Oh, no, you've stirred mine. I'll tell you what I'm like in a minute. That's why I was laughing.
I think one of the best things I ever did, that just rocked my world. And if you're listening to this and you're struggling and you want to improve and you want to get better and you want to serve more people, you need to get help. You need to find someone who will ask you hard questions, who will love you, who will challenge you. Maybe that can be a sales coach. Maybe that can be like a more of a life coach. If you're not, if that isn't, if you already have a sales coach or a sales manager, I'm talking about someone who's not in your organization or has any sort of like monetary incentive necessarily to serve you. Find someone, find a coach. I've had a sales coach nearly my entire career, and there has never not been ROI. There is always ROI. So when sales reps are saying, I don't know if it's gonna be worth the money, I just take a hike, pal, because like I can show you. I can show you that there is ROI. Obviously, every sales coach varies. They're different, and it depends on the person. There are so many factors here at play. But I can tell you, hand on the Bible, that getting a sales coach is one of the best fast track ways to improve your performance, help you find your purpose, and get support. And that takes humility.
Yeah. The reason I was laughing, and it's just not funny, I was kind of laughing at myself, really. I think the word's hubris. Where you think you're that brilliant and that successful, and look, I used to fly around the world and deliver training, and when you're traveling business class, you feel a bit special, and you go to these places and all that. And I thought I knew everything. Honestly, talk about unconscious incompetence. I didn't really know anything. I was doing a really good job. I knew the stuff I was turning up to do, but I knew so little of stuff out there. Oh, I was the Dunning-Kruger poster child, I reckon. Really. And then when I started to recognize this, I've now got 4 coaches, and a robot that coaches me every morning and every evening. Rocky.ai. People have heard me talk about this before. It's AI that asks questions. You don't ask it a question, it asks you questions. It's very odd. I've had it for a couple of years. But yeah, just having, and I thought, top sports people, they have a number of coaches. A tennis player will have like a hitting coach, a dietitian, they'll have a psychologist, probably have a sleep coach, they'll definitely have a physio, they'll have a strategist, they'll have their main coach. I mean, that's what, 7 already. Yeah, it's definitely the way forward. But again, I think it's way more acceptable now, and people are open to that and kind of get it. It's kind of crazy not to. On that then, if you are uncertain, or maybe, for whatever reason you can't quite afford that, is being part of a community almost like a first step? Is that a sort of a next best option if you can't go whole hog on a kind of a coach yourself?
Well, how much do you believe in yourself? I mean, sales, yeah, of course you could join. Yes, you could join a community, but I think the question that you asked of like finding your purpose and navigating change, like you joining a community, well, I think that's like a band-aid on like a big wound. Like if someone doesn't know their purpose, that's a very serious thing.
Hmm.
So um yeah, I wouldn't join a community. I would go all in. I would jump in. I would run the 100 miles, or I would at least start with the 10K, like just like I did, start small. So I think that's what you're saying is like join a community. Yes, absolutely. But what you get in is often what you get out. And so if you're struggling with purpose, or you need to refocus or take a reset, um, do much more than join a community.
Yeah. It probably won't do any harm. I mean, I'm a big fan of the expression environment dictates performance. And if you're hanging out with the right kind of people who think in the right kind of way and they're going to sort of pull you up, happy days. But I guess if we're going back to that original thing we were chatting about, your purpose, and is that aligned, and is there some really deep fundamental stuff you need to get sorted? That's where you need specialist help. Yeah. Like with your calf when you ran that thing, yeah, you could have stuck some ice on it. But I suspect it was a little bit more knackered than that.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So, we got right off the mistakes in negotiation, but I think it doesn't matter at all. This is hopefully an episode which people will be able to take a lot away from. How can people get in touch with you? Because when we were chatting before, I know you've got a couple of initiatives going on, and you're already thinking more and more about this yourself. And if you're anything like other people I know doing this, which will mean you'll probably talk more about it yourself and put more stuff out there. Where can people get in touch with you?
Sure, absolutely. Three ways. ShaneRayMartin.com. Head to my website. There's 11 negotiation scripts that you can download for free. It's ShaneRayMartin.com. That'd be the first place. The second place is LinkedIn. I post every week free negotiation tips. So that's a great place to find me as well if you just type in Shane Ray Martin. And then the third is send me an email, Shane@ShaneRayMartin.com.
Brilliant. Okay. We will drop those into the show notes. Shane, it's been awesome conversation. When's the next ultramarathon then? Just before we sign off, when's the next one?
So instead of an ultra, I've kind of shifted my gears and I'm going to do a sub 3 marathon on June 17th. So I want to finish it in 3 hours or less. And it's going to be a massive challenge. It's only a couple weeks away. So yes, please be thinking of me in my legs. I appreciate it. And one thing too, I'm really excited about in June is Global Negotiation Month as well. Follow me on LinkedIn. We have a hashtag going called Negotiathon, and there's experts from 15 plus countries, 30 total folks. There'll be more who are hosting free webinars, free audio rooms on LinkedIn to help out sales reps, to help you take your game to the next level. I just, my final thought is just that piece of what you said about change and purpose. It's so important. I think that is like the first thing before selling, before negotiating, before being out in the marketplace, like knowing why you're there, like what is your why? What is going to help you get out of bed early in the morning and go to sleep early at night, knowing that you are serving others. When you have a strong why, it can withstand anything. And I think that taking the time to figure that out is so key because it's your fuel in the rocket ship, and I don't think there's any limits to what someone can accomplish as long as you have the right fuel in your rocket.
Awesome. Right fuel in your rocket. Another one I'm gonna steal. Shane, thanks so much for making time to speak to us. Really do appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, thanks for hosting this amazing podcast. Go be great, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.